The beautiful thing about Christian that you will see is that he has a way of articulating and storytelling in a way that you, even if it's not something that you experience yourself, you feel compelled to relate to what he's saying. And so it's been a real honor to work with him in several different capacities. Previously, he was working at Trinity Lutheran College. He was actually one of those student body presidents, y'all. He has left such a huge legacy, and so it really is a joy to see how he's going to continue to lead, not only in Seattle, where he currently resides, but honestly, I see him blowing up, and y'all will see why in 2 minutes. But yes, I'm just so grateful to have him here. I'm trying not to get emotional because he was actually one of the scholars that when I first became staff, he was one of the rock stars that I had the pleasure of working with. So if you could all give him a round of applause.
Remember when "would argue" would fly off the lips of children trying to answer the same question for themselves? I wish they wouldn't have asked. See, we were all in search of our identities, but somehow it was routine for my introspection to be public. What are you? I'm a kid in elementary school, constantly sifting through conflicting messages, black and white or right, white or wrong. We're faced with right and wrong, somehow I still see colors. And if I'm supposed to be colorblind, then that puts me in the color bind with my hands tied, unable to acknowledge my own story. With two worlds pulling at my arms, I split. I learned how to code switch to sewing station identity, palatable to the public, to smile, even when I was uncomfortable, to laugh, even when the jokes were at my expense. See, this skin is expensive. And I've been paying both principal and interest, trying to get a return, but it was never consistent because I was never consistent. What are you? A 6th grade shapeshifter. What are you? A 7th grade false dichotomy. What are you? An 8th grade chameleon. What are you? A high school example. See, it's funny. I was called a leader as soon as I learned how to use their tools. Rewarded when I played by their rules. See, I mimicked privilege to survive. I became unfamiliar in my own eyes. My body was not mine. I had tightrope the hyphen between African and American. If only you knew what it meant to always be an exception. To be the smart black kid. As if black was equal to ignorant, to constantly hear, my gosh, you are so articulate, to be model minority or an object to be compared to. Like, if only you could get these other black kids to act as civil as you do. What am I? Angry? What am I? Confused? What am I? Suicidal? In college, I chugged alcohol and whiteness until my liver and consciousness became kin. Until my vision was blurry enough for my reflection to be clear. Being intoxicated seemed like the only time I could be pardoned for speaking my truth. What are you? I'm the poor black kid speaking at the fundraiser. What are you? Culminating insecurities hidden behind dictionary-sized words. What are you? Self-loathing disguised as overconfidence. What are you? I remember when I stopped listening to the answers that were given to me and started building my own. See, I discarded the broken ideology that disregarded and failed to acknowledge me, that safeguarded the narrative that bombarded me, that failed to tell me that there were kings in my genealogy. See, my skin was not something I had to compensate for. Black was not poor, not dumb, not violent, not numb. It was none of the things that I have been socialized to believe. What am I? I'm a human interruption. Knowing that my existence is resistant. Who am I? I'm an afro-wearing, cuss-word, sailor-swearing, slang-swinging scholar. Who am I? I'm the beauty that they forgot to put on the front of the magazine. I'm the main character in the story that they forgot to show. Who am I? My answer has nothing to do with who you believe me to be, and everything to do with who I was called to be. At 24, what are you flies off the lips of adults trying to answer the same question for themselves. It's still routine for my introspection to be public. It seems easier to ask that question than to look inside themselves and ask the same one. What are you? What does it mean to lead? And no, I'm not talking about the stereotypical position over principal popularity contest president, or the resident assistant, more focused on policing than teaching, speaking and acting, full-time but half-assing, focused on being on platforms and screens, using leadership as an ends instead of a means. No, I'm not talking about you either. I'm talking about really leading. I'm talking about creating a world that you want your descendants to see. I'm talking action over authority, principle over position, Picasso with the policy on a Malcolm X mission. Boy, I'm talking vision. That's what I'm talking about. Right? Seeing things that have not yet been written with every intention of willing it to flourish. I'm talking about turning a campus into your canvas. Painting with every beautiful shade of brown, because it wouldn't be art if I left either of them all white. No, see, those would be my history books. Those are my history books. Like the ones that they read me in elementary school, constantly telling me stories of how I don't matter, only seeing souls that resemble mine. If they are bruised, beaten, or battered, or chained, or sold, or properly treated, or properly ridden by poverty, gentrified, and then pushed out. What does it mean to lead? It means giving them something to write about. Reminding them of the leader that they forgot about, leaving a legacy. Giving them a novel of novel ideas, not taking no for an answer, navigating nobility, using your gifts, talents, and abilities, and symmetry. I'm talking about being the textbooks you want your children to read. It doesn't mean revolutionary revenant, humble and intelligent, shoulder sore, sitting on your back, you had to carry it, caring for your community, taking education and then sharing it, arose from the concrete, owning your story and then telling it. I'm talking about standing in the face of injustice, fighting for justice, even if the only people fighting is just us standing in our community for diversity and unity. I'm talking more graduations and less premature eulogies. So this looks like you, and it looks like me, being bigger than titles, worth more than scholarships, refusing to be idle, pick a passion, and then follow it. We are not fighting for benefits, we are fighting for change. And if you're here for anything else, then get out of our way. So I know why you're here, why you continue to stay. But our real leaders get in formation, because baby, we came to slay. We know it's at stake. We know it's at stake. As long as our schools are underfunded and children are overlooked, as long as women are being body shamed and told how to look, as long as my brothers are afraid to be killed, injured, or booked, I will be standing in solidarity. My foundation won't be shook, we will be leading until we have created the world that we want to live in. So when I ask, what does it mean to lead? Don't tell me. I'd rather see it. I'd rather read it. We should only talk about change if we're willing to be it. So don't lead for the sake of leading. Lead with purpose. Lead with passion. Lead with action. Lead because your world is waiting. Thank you, guys.